the helicopter. I told God a long time ago, I'm not going to serve you and your people, and I'm broke.
That was Marvin Sapp's new wife on Easter Sunday from the pulpit. First time they ever seen her. And the internet has not stopped talking about what she had to say since. Now, if you're not familiar with Marvin Sapp, he's the voice behind the Christian gospel classic, Never Would Have Made It. Y'all know the one? I can't sing, but y'all know the one I'm talking about. And on top of that, he's a 13-time Grammy-nominated artist and the senior pastor of Chosen Vessel Church in Dallas. Plus, he's one of the most recognized figures in the Christian faith community. And if you don't know, his first wife, Melinda, she actually passed away from colon cancer back in 2010. And his remarriage recently has made the headlines, y'all. Partly because of the wedding itself, and then partly because of this one little detail that caught a lot of people's attention. The fact that him and his wife, the couple, arrived by a helicopter, y'all. Yep, that's the one. And that little detail right there has sparked so many questions, right? Those questions have then turned into rumors, and those rumors are exactly what brought his new wife to the mic on Easter Sunday to say all that she had to say. Now, here's where it gets really, really interesting, because the internet, it didn't land in the same place on this, right? Y'all know people be divided all the time. So we got to get into this, because some people, they watched these clips and they said that, she did exactly what a wife should do. She stood up for her husband. She set the record straight, and she did it without any apology, right? She stood 10 toes down. But then you got people on the other side, right? They looking at this same moment and they like, listen, she in the pulpit on Resurrection Sunday on our first time in front of that church. And that is not the place for her to have that conversation. Period. They said, period. That ain't the way to have a convo, right? So today we're going to be breaking down both sides, right? What she said and why her supporters think what she did was completely justified. And then we're going to take a look at what the critics think and why they think that moment is actually doing more harm than good. So I got the clips all ready for us, right? We're going to review them. We're going to check them out. So without further ado, let's get right into it, y'all.
I got to take a deep breath for this one. I am so very excited today, because we have an extremely special announcement that is about to take place. But let me tell you why I'm so excited. I'm so excited not because of the announcement, but I'm excited about who making the announcement. I want you all, for the first time, put your hands together and give God praise for the First Lady of the Chosen Vessel Church, as she makes a very special announcement.
Well, bless the Lord.
Here's what we know to start. See, Marvin Sapp has been one of the pillars of gospel music for decades. He's originally from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And on top of that, that's where he built his ministry at Lighthouse Full Life Center Church. And he later moved to Dallas. And then after the passing of his first wife, Melinda, like I mentioned before, he was open about his grief and his journey, and his remarriage was always going to be a moment that people had opinions about. That's just the reality, right? That's the reality of being a public figure at that level in the faith community, especially for somebody who stands alongside, those gospel giants like Kirk Franklin and Fred Hammond, man. So this wedding, it happened. And then when the photos and the footage, they began to surface of the couple arriving by helicopter, y'all, that's when the conversation online started to shift really, really quickly, because people started asking those questions about the cost of the celebration, whether the church was funding it or anything like that, right? So those questions are what then turned into the accusations that were being hurled at Marvin Sapp and now his wife. And that is the fire that was stoked and that was burning by the time that Easter Sunday arrived. So when his new wife was introduced to the congregation for the very first time as the first lady, she came with something to say, and she did not ease into it, y'all. She got right after it.
I love God. He's been so good to me. He's been so good to me. But this announcement is for, I was sharing Bishop, you guys can have a seat. I was sharing Bishop a vision I had for my personal ministry. And he says to me, he says, why you can't do that at the church? And I said, oh, he said, yo, we become one. I said, oh, so singles, make sure you know who you marrying. That you don't marry somebody that try to compete with you. So Bishop, thank you so much for taking all of me, all that came with me. Ministry, goofy, loud, happy, loving. I appreciate you.
That moment of gratitude toward her husband is what set the tone for everything that followed, right? She wasn't coming to the mic just to promote no event. No. She came to speak to who they are as a couple and to push back on all of the narratives, all of the gossip, all of the accusations that she felt were being built against her and Marvin online.
Despite what the haters on the internet say about you, you are an integral man. You don't take or rob the church. The church didn't pay for the wedding. Y'all stop lying. God's been good to me.
So she wasn't playing, y'all. She came right after it. She named the accusation and she rejected it in front of the full congregation on a live stream. And then she went even further.
Y'all stop that. Y'all stop the devil. You are defeated. Yeah. Saying all these lies about the man of God.
She didn't frame the online criticism as people, having questions or concern. No. She took the spiritual route. She framed it as spiritual warfare, lies being spread about a man of God, her husband. And that framing matters, right? Because it tells you how she's processing this moment and what lens she's actually asking her congregation to view it all through. But see, here's the thing. There was a line that she dropped, y'all, and I'm about to share the clip. And it's that line that became the clip that everybody started sharing, everybody started talking about online.
Yep, I bought the helicopter. He didn't buy the helicopter. Let's make that straight while we screaming. Y'all stop lying. Stop it.
Y'all heard that. Y'all just heard the clip for yourself, right? She wanted that on record. She made that statement publicly. She did it on Easter Sunday. She did it in the pulpit. She did it with the cameras rolling. She did it so that everybody would see, hear, and know.
Everybody not broke. And everybody don't need the church's money to pay. God's been good, y'all. I just don't look good. But I have surrendered my life to God. And he's blessed me with multiple streams of income as well as the bishop. He has multiple streams of income outside the church. When he wasn't getting paid here, God still blessed him. God still blessed. So y'all go and record and tell that. Yeah.
And yeah, she went there too, y'all. She had to let everybody know that they got money and they don't need the church's money. But this is so interesting because I don't know how many of y'all are aware, but Marvin, he had a little situation not too long ago, locking some church doors, asking for some money, right? So after his stunt, locking the church doors, I got to be honest with you, that may be up to debate. It may be up for debate about, whether or not they are, profiting off of or, benefiting from the funds of the church, because it's all about who you ask, But hey, I'm not going to say nothing one way or the other. I will allow you to make that assessment for yourself. So either way, whether you believe they need the money or you don't believe they need the money, whether you do believe they dipping into what the church has got or not, either way, she wanted to make it known to everybody in the church, everybody watching the live stream, that they got money. And they don't need theirs. They don't need the church's money at all. Now, here's where this story begins to get even deeper, y'all, because the debate isn't really about the helicopter. No. It may have started about the helicopter, but it went way further than that, right? The helicopter was that first headline, but the deeper question that people are starting to wrestle with is that whole prosperity theology is sitting underneath all of this, right? That's what's at the heart of this, because after she addressed the wedding rumors and then she said something that completely opened up the conversation and took it into an entirely different direction, right? And that is what a lot of people have an issue with. So check that clip out.
I look like brokenness. So how can I be a living witness to you all that God is healer?
That right there, y'all, that line is what got so many people's attention. And it's way more than the helicopter or anything else that she said while she was up there. See, her argument is that her visible prosperity is part of her testimony. That if she's going to be before the people and tell them that God is a healer and God is a provider, then guess what? Her life needs to reflect all of those things that she's telling them. She is not just defending a lifestyle, she is actually making a theological case for it.
I told God a long time ago, I'm not going to serve you and your people, and I'm broke.
That's really important, y'all. For her supporters, that right there is nothing more than a declaration of her faith. They see her as a woman who believes that God honors those who walk in financial stewardship and who refuse to apologize for what she's built. But as y'all know, the critics always got a different spin on it, right? So for the critics, that line is what raised a much, much harder question that we're going to dive into, which is one that goes well beyond this couple and this wedding. See, the question of whether financial prosperity is evidence of God's favor and whether ministry requires it. Y'all know that's one of the most debated topics in the modern church. And it's the same debate that surrounded a lot of notable figures like Creflo Dollar, like Joel Osteen, and even Kenneth Copeland, right? For many years. And she stepped directly into the middle of that, right? She first day, I mean, man, did she set a mark on that first day? Yes, she did, man. She stepped directly into that conversation, and she did it on one of the most watched Sundays of the year, Easter Sunday of all Sundays. So whatever people thought about the helicopter before that moment, I truly believe that line is what started to shift the entire conversation into a full-on debate about what everybody loved to talk about, that prosperity gospel. As you can imagine, the internet, as always, is split. See, you got her critics saying that, yo, this is Easter Sunday. What are you doing? This is the most sacred Sunday in or on the Christian calendar. It's the day that the resurrection is celebrated. That is the essential theological centerpiece of the Christian faith. So what are you doing when the platform on that day is being used to address some social media rumors about your wedding and about a helicopter? And essentially what they're saying is, yo, it sends a message that regardless of her intent, that your public image, you and your husband's public image, it takes priority over what? Your congregation's worship experience on one of the most important days for the faith, right? That's what the critics are pointing out, but that's not all.
I guess she told her, hey, he ain't stealing no money. He ain't steal no money to pay for that wedding. He ain't do that. Y'all need to get it straight while y'all streaming. I paid for the helicopter. I did that. Huh? I paid. Everybody ain't broke. Everybody ain't broke. I'm trying to tell you that now. I told the Lord, I ain't never going into ministry broke. I told the Lord that. So get that straight right now. Stop. Y'all need to stop lying. Just stop all that lying. I know. I just don't look good, praise the Lord. God been good to me. I just don't look good. Well, I guess she told us. Oh, this is giving immaturity. Hallelujah. This is giving, I need to grow up more. Oh, Lord, yes, it does. Hey, yeah. This was so tacky, unnecessary, uncalled for. We always want to take pulpit time and get on our little soapboxes and say things that, I've been brewing to say. This was your first time getting up in front of the congregation as quote unquote, the first lady, and do what you do.
They're also pointing out the fact that this was her very first formal appearance as the first lady. And guess what? That first impression, it's now going to live on forever. Y'all know how internet is, man. Once it's out there for good. And what it's going to show is not pastoral warmth, not you sharing a vision for your ministry, but it's going to share that you have established yourself as a first lady on a spirit of defense.
I'm trying to figure out, why is it every single time you getting talked about on the internet because of your actions, your new wife has to come forward with this whole spiel about how everybody ain't broke? You are a pastor. We don't need to respond to everything. I know you are not Jesus, but you are supposed to be Christ-like. You know what I mean? Like, ain't no way God would have got on the internet with his girl and had her to stand up there in the pulpit and talk about how we got haters online. Ain't no way Jesus would have did that.
And that is what the critics are saying, right? So it's wild, man. This is deep because several people have even asked the question. And I got to be honest, man, it can't be ignored. The question that they're asking is, if the accusations are baseless, right? Like, why did you need to address it at all? Let alone on Easter Sunday. Like, if what they said wasn't true, why does it matter? And why talk about it on that day? And then let's not forget about this. On top of that, you put that whole prosperity theology, right? You add a whole nother layer to this mix, right? Because when she said that she told God that she wouldn't serve him or his people while being broke, a lot of people started to argue that, it directly contradicts what scripture teaches about contentment and about your calling, especially when you consider that some of the most pivotal figures in the Bible actually serve with very little resources. So tying ministry effectively to your personal wealth is a theology that has caused a lot of harm to a lot of congregations for a very, very long time. But like I mentioned before, that's just one side of it. There's always the other side. So let's take a look at what the other side has to say, right? So her supporters, they're actually arguing that what people saw on that clip was a woman of God who loves her husband, who refused to let a lie stand, and that there's nothing weak or undignified about a wife or a first lady stepping up and saying publicly what she knows to be true and what she knows to be false. So they point to the fact that Marvin Sapp has been a target of online criticism for some time, and that silence in the face of repeated false accusations is not always the right choice. Sometimes it just allows that narrative to continue, or more likely to be believed if it's not addressed. I mean, I can't lie, man. They making some strong points, man. Both sides arguing, making some sense. But at the same time, from that perspective, a person could argue that, she didn't misuse the pulpit. And that's what a lot of people that agree with her and are in support of her are saying. They saying, she used her platform on her first day as a first lady to do what? To establish clearly who her husband is and who they are together. Can you be mad at that? In that moment is what her supporters are pointing to when they push back on that idea that, she is being arrogant according to the critics. No, they argue that what she was doing was being real. She was keeping 100. She was being 100. She wasn't flaunting. She wasn't bragging about anything, including how much money they got or their resources and them not needing nothing from the church. All she was doing was simply expressing her thoughts on the blessings that God has given her, that she believes firmly that God has given her, so that she can do what? Serve effectively in her role and in ministry. So the tension that we have coming from both of these sides, man, it's not, if you ask me, about right or wrong. It's really about two different values that both of these people are, or both of these sides are carrying, right? And they both carry a lot of weight in the faith community, right? You have on one side discretion and on the other side loyalty, right? Like, which one is more important? Exercise of discretion or showcasing your loyalty to your husband in this case, right? So I gotta say, man, where you land on this, I truly believe it's almost entirely gonna be on which of those you give more weight. Are you somebody that values discretion more, or are you somebody that values loyalty, especially to your partner or your husband, more? So you've seen the clips, and Marvin Sapp's new wife has made one thing very, very clear. She's not the kind of first lady who is going to stay quiet if she feels that her husband's name is on the line or he is being misrepresented or even attacked. Whether that was the right moment for her to make that clear to everybody is the question that most people can't agree on. So I want to hear from you. Do you think that she was right to use the pulpit on Easter Sunday to defend her husband and set that record straight? Or do you feel like, that was the absolute wrong place, that was the wrong day, and that approach has likely created a way more drama instead of actually quieting your haters? Let me know your thoughts, and I want to know where you are standing on this. And while you're, typing in away in the comments and sharing your thoughts, I'm gonna give you my take on this. So I got to be honest. The first thing that I think about is first impressions, right? First impressions are absolutely everything. And you just have to ask yourself, like, is that first lady like? I get it. Don't get me wrong. I feel like a woman is supposed to hold her husband down, but at the same time, he is the head. And if it was that big of an issue, why didn't he address it first? Like, he called her out there to introduce her and for her to promote an event. And then it seems like she may have deviated off course and addressed something. Now, if he was aware of it, then I got to kind of look at him and say, like, man, why you let your wife on her first time up there have to deal with that when you as a man, as a spiritual leader, should have stepped up and addressed it? If that was the plan, if the plan was to address those rumors, why didn't he as the man step up and do that first instead of putting his wife essentially in the line of fire to deal with some of these criticisms that are coming? As a first lady, she should have been basking in that moment. She should have been, enjoying, the bliss still of marriage to her husband, not getting on the pulpit and digging into these rumors. So the other thing that I think is really important is, and I got to be honest with you, were the rumors really that serious that they needed to be addressed right then in that moment on Easter Sunday? I'll be honest, I kind of fall on the side of, like, I don't think that Easter Sunday was the place to do that. But maybe, maybe her intentions of doing it on Easter Sunday was like, yo, we gonna have the most attendance, we gonna have the most eyes, people watching on the live stream. So maybe she was playing the numbers game of, yo, we got more people that's gonna be tuned in, so this is the time to address this and state the case and make that point clear, make it known. And you could argue that, but I'll be honest, man, I just feel like, yo, let Easter Sunday, Resurrection Sunday, let that be about that. If you got other events or anything that you want to promote that's about that, then by all means. But to address social media rumors and drama, I don't think that that's the place or the time to do that. So I just think that this just brings way more bad attention. Like, it resurfaces all of the stuff that was coming up with him locking the doors and all of the drama that surrounded that. I feel like sometimes the right move is to say nothing. And I feel like if it was a true attack on their character, then it needed to be addressed. But come on, man, anytime you have ministry leaders that are doing anything that appears to cost more money or spending money on things that, their average congregation or parishioner or a member in their church can't do, then people are always going to bring up, like, the money thing. And I feel like that's just one of those things that come with being a spiritual leader. People gonna always be pocket watching. People gonna always be questioning where your funds is coming from and whether or not you taken from the church. So I think it's one of those things that unless there are some real accusations that are being hurled against you with, like, some facts or some defamation, then you need to address it. But if it's just I would say, like, the typical type of rumors, whenever somebody sees a pastor or a ministry leader that is expressing or displaying, like, their wealth and the extent of their resources, I don't think is so serious and so necessary that, you gotta, stand 10 toes down and speak on that. But hey, that's just my thoughts. Again, I want to know what you think. Feel free to share regardless of what side you fall on. I want to hear from you. And if you haven't already, go check out another video that I did. It's a really good one. Tiffany Montgomery, man, she publicly called out Pastor Brian Meadows for this over 12-year affair and double life that he was living. If you haven't checked that out, man, it's going to be on the screen for you to do that. Enjoy it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, stay blessed.